Peace, everyone. My name is Cathy. I am running for New York City mayor. Don't let them fool you. They tell you that there are no options, and the only options that we have is the Democratic and the Republican Party. And the reason that they tell you that is because those are two faces of the same coin, offering the same old solution to working class people's problems. And we have new solutions, transformative solutions, because when they tell you that the rental assistance program is enough, we're here to tell you that it is possible to house every single person in New York City. We can make New York City a rent control city. And what that means is that we wouldn't have to pay more than 20% of our income for rent. We could cancel rents and mortgages until the end of the pandemic. We could ensure that housing discrimination ends so that people that have records won't be discriminated. People that are undocumented will have access to housing. During the pandemic, we saw how people were literally dying because of lack of access to housing. We saw how because of lack of access to housing, we had tons of people that were living in apartments that were overcrowded. We had two families sometimes living in one bedroom or in a one-bedroom apartment. And what does that mean? That they can't quarantine. We saw how the government failed our undocumented brothers and sisters, how they didn't offer them any aid, and therefore they had to continue working. And how could you quarantine in an apartment that has too many people living in it? You can't. So our community was dying. And now they have no solution other than a temporary rental assistance. But at the end of the day, housing was an issue before the pandemic, and it's going to be an issue after. Because rent has never been accessible in New York City. Because our politicians have the interest of real estate developers. They continue to allow our communities to be gentrified. They continue to allow our rent to increase without any cap. And we're here to say it's enough. That we need to choose people that are going to fight for us. That are going to fight for our livelihood. That are going to fight not just for housing, but also for education, for hospitals. Hospitals have been closing down in New York City for 9 years. People didn't just die of COVID, they died of lack of access to public hospitals, lack of access to income that they couldn't take off work, lack of access to proper housing. That's what killed people. That's what killed people during the pandemic. And they tell us that we don't have money, yet they have an $11 billion budget for the NYPD. We need to be creative for our solutions. We know everybody wants to live in safe communities, but is making kidnapping youth and making them disappear in Rikers Island a real solution to our community problems? Is it a real solution to our safety? No, it isn't. What we need is mentorship, resources, conflict resolution programs. We have more vacant apartments in New York City than we have people that are homeless. And yet, they choose every day not to seize those apartments and give them to people that are without homes, and we're saying it's enough. We need to put working class people first, because this city has the most amount of millionaires and billionaires than any other city in the country, and we made that wealth. We made it, the workers. Jeff Bezos wouldn't be a billionaire without all the people working in his warehouses, risking their lives during the pandemic, fighting for PPE, fighting for track tracing, fighting for their livelihood. That's what allowed him to be a billionaire. And we want a piece of the pie because we created it. We cooked it and we created the pie, and it is now our time to take our piece. So don't settle just with rental assistance. Don't settle for taking more funds from our community for the police. Let's think transformatively. Let's fight for housing for all. Let's tax the rich. Let's create violence intervention programs. Let's give our communities all the resources that they need to thrive, and make sure that all the power in New York City is given to the hands of the people and no one else.